Hey friends, Barkey J Dog here, back with another movie review. Steven Spielberg. The name is still magical, isn't it? True, he had more misses in the last 10 years than hits, but throughout the entirety of his career, he had way more hits than misses. You know the titles, right? Jaws, Close Encounters, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Duel, E.T., Poltergeist, Jurassic Park, The Color Purple, Schindler's List, Saving Private Ryan, and the ones he didn't direct, he produced. Used Cars, Gremlins, The Goonies, Young Sherlock Holmes, Back to the Future, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Twister, just all kinds of things. Not to mention the Animaniacs, Amazing Stories, Sequest DSV. His credits just go on and on. He's had a lot of hits, right? But one of his early misses is pretty fascinating. This time we're talking about a film Spielberg made in 1979. The World War II comedy, 1941. Now, a while back, one of my viewers, my friend Michael, kindly sent me this here Blu-ray off of my wish list. Thanks, Michael! Believe it or not, I'd never actually screened this movie before. So, let's get into it. Our story goes like this. It's just a few days after the attack on Pearl Harbor, and the West Coast is in a bit of a panic. People expect the Japanese to invade any day, so everyone is on edge. Wally is planning to enter a big dance contest with his girlfriend Betty, but her dad doesn't like him. On top of that, the dance venue goes all patriotic, and the place is made into a USO club where only servicemen can go and dance with the local chicks. Wally hasn't joined up. Instead, he and his friend connive to get Wally a zoot suit so he'll be ready for the big night. Unfortunately, enter a squad of inept soldiers working to set up defense areas. One of them is this guy, Corporal Stretch. He has an eye for Betty. Can't blame him. So he tries to cut Wally out of the picture by hook or by crook. Mostly by crook. Now, meanwhile, there's other defense preparations in the works, with some of the other characters working on the civil defense angle. And there's a Japanese sub lurking just offshore. This sub was too late to the party for Pearl, so the captain wants to strike a blow for Japan so they can return home with honor. There's also a crazy fighter pilot chasing a mythical Japanese squadron. The general in charge looks around and sees nothing but hysteria, and he tries to calm things down, while his aide gets the hots for the general's secretary. Trouble is, she's only turned on when flying in an airplane, so he has to get her airborne to get into her knickers before he can land and taxi down the runway. The contest is approaching. Defense positions are being set up. Stretch is after Betty. The pilot is creating chaos wherever he goes. The general is trying to keep a lid on things. The Japanese are trying to get their bearings so they can attack. And panic is setting in. And that's just the tip of the iceberg in 1941. 1941 was written by Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis. Absolute legends, who went on to make the Back to the Future films, among many other things. Teamed up with Spielberg and John Milius, the four conspired to make an action comedy in a creative crucible. A freewheeling approach absolutely impossible for today's corporatized Hollywood to ever make again. In fact, two studios worked together to co-produce the picture, Universal and Columbia. One side having domestic distribution, and the other handling the creative side of production and the international rights. Now, theoretically, Wally and Betty's romance and the rivalry with Stretch and the lead up to the big Jitterbug contest are supposed to be the through line in this picture. Only it kinda isn't. There's so much going on, they kind of take a back seat to the other characters and events much of the time. But this movie was based on some true events. Right after Pearl Harbor, there was a lot of unease and uncertainty on the West Coast. There was a brief panic about some aircraft, which may or may not have existed, which blacked out Los Angeles for 6 hours while defense batteries lit up the sky around the city. And not just with searchlights. Zoot suiters were indeed a thing, and the servicemen didn't like them. They felt that the zoot suit guys should be in uniform instead of dressing like clowns, as they saw it, and the two groups would get into brouhahas. There really was, reportedly, a Japanese sub off the coast, and there was a man who had a defensive battery set up on his property, although that happened on the coast of Maine, but the filmmakers moved it to the West Coast for the movie. 1941 is not just an action comedy, though. No, this is a supercomedy. A rare type of big-scale comedy featuring an all-star cast combined with a slew of cameo roles with many familiar faces. Probably the best example of a supercomedy is this one. It's a mad, 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 mad world. Check that out sometime. The sheer scale of this picture is mind-boggling. The sets are huge. There's lots of slapstick stunts, huge crowd scenes, pyro and demolition work, and the miniatures in the last act are simply amazing. Spielberg figuring out a way to make exploding miniatures happen slower for the camera by using flashbulbs and air cannons to keep the frame rate more reasonable and make the result look more real. And the movie is genuinely funny. The cast is peppered with name brands, large and small. Here's just a few. You have John Belushi as the over-the-top crazy pilot Captain Wild Bill Kelso, possibly the funniest character in his whole career. Dan Aykroyd as the sergeant in charge of the defense crew, rattling off technical details and whatnot, giving patriotic speeches. He's great. John Candy is also in the crew, after John Wayne and Charlton Heston turned down the part flat, feeling the movie was offensive. Robert Stack took on the role of General Stilwell, a real guy at the time. And he's brilliant in this. Treat Williams plays Stretch, and he really has that look, doesn't he? That 1940s leading man look, not unlike Billy Zane in The Phantom, or Billy Campbell in The Rocketeer. Bobby DeSico is Wally. He was in The Philadelphia Experiment, which I've reviewed elsewhere on the channel. He was also in Splash, Night Shift, and The Big Red One with Lee Marvin. His chick Betty is played by Diane Kay, who was a regular on 8 is Enough and appeared in a lot of other TV shows. Ned Beatty plays Betty's dad, and Lorraine Gray plays her mom. Gray was Brody's wife in Jaws. She and Beatty are both great here. Eddie Deason plays this really annoying, nebbishy civil defense guy stationed atop a Ferris wheel. He got his start in Laser Blast, of all things. He was in War Games, Grease, and so many other films. He reminded me a bit of comedian Arnold Stang. Lionel Stander is helping set up the civil defense stuff. He was blacklisted during the Red Scare. To be fair, he really was a commie, but not a Spock. When he came back to Hollywood after the blacklist was over, he was in demand as a character actor with a very distinctive, gravelly voice. He was in a lot of films, but you may know him best as Max on Heart to Heart. We also have Toshiro Mifune as the submarine captain. He not only played that part, but taught the other Japanese men playing the sailors on the sub discipline and professionalism and pride in their heritage. Christopher Lee is Captain Kleinschmidt, the German Ratsy liaison on the sub. Slim Pickens is a Christmas tree farmer who is captured by the Japanese during a scouting mission. Tim Matheson and Nancy Allen are the randy pair working for the general. Warren Oates plays a loony colonel who thinks it's the end of the world and sees the enemy behind every tree. Wendy Jo Sperber, who we last saw in my review of Used Cars, is here as a friend of Betty's. You may know her best as Marty's sister from Back to the Future. And there's other cameos too. Penny Marshall, Laverne from Laverne and Shirley, is in this, as are Lenny and Squiggy. Dick Miller plays a policeman. Joe Flaherty from SCTV is here, as is Hubba Bubba Bubblegum Pitchman and legendary Western character actor Dub Taylor. There's Elijah Cook Jr., the Gunzel from the Maltese Falcon, and Samuel T. Cogley, attorney at law from Star Trek. He's here. The movie opens right with this sexy chick going skinny dipping. The same chick Spielberg used in the opening of Jaws. This gas station and the owner, played by Lucille Benson, are the same ones Spielberg previously used in Duel. Look, there's just too many. Mickey Rourke, Audrey Landers, and J. Patrick McNamara are in this thing somewhere, and there's more besides. Stuff like this is in it too. If you know, you know. The score by John Williams is among his best. The theme music is a kind of patriotic march that's lots of fun, and the big jitterbug number is a riff on Benny Goodman's Sing, Sing, Sing. So, a big-budget supercomedy with fantastic writers who steeped themselves in research about the time period, a director just off some mega hits that created the phenomenon we call the blockbuster, a top-flight composer, a crack special effects team, an all-star cast. This picture had all of this stuff going for it. So what happened? Well, 1941 wasn't technically a flop, but it wasn't technically a success either. Audiences at the time didn't know what to make of it. Critics hated it too, though honestly I think they were high on dope. That's the only thing that explains some of their reactions. It could be that it was just too soon. 1979 was 38 years after Pearl Harbor, but it was still fresh in some people's minds. It was that traumatizing. And when it was shown on TV or in the movies, it was usually handled with a sort of reverence. Maybe a parody of the fear and paranoia created by the bombing of Pearl was too much, even then. The events of a certain day in September, which we're all still dealing with, are probably the closest anyone has today for comparison. But I fear we live in a far more jaded world than the people who lived through Pearl Harbor. So I suspect in 2040, not many people would feel the same about the two towers. I don't know. Maybe I'm the jaded one, but I don't think so. The Blu-ray has both the theatrical as well as the extended cut of the film. I watched the extended cut, of course, and it does feel a bit long, but I didn't care because it was so much fun. It also has a very comprehensive documentary about the making of the film, so this is the one to get. Anyway, this is a great picture. Spielberg leaning hard into the nostalgia, and the movie is really fun. If only we could make comedies like this again. Or at all. I'm giving 1941 3.5 paws up. It's a real treat, and maybe a lesser-known Spielberg film, so do yourself a favor and check it out. You take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.